Good afternoon, Laura. Thank you for joining us and giving us some of your time. First of all, we have to say, who is Laura and what is your guardian chef? Which says it all, but tell us more.
Hi, Martina. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great opportunity. We share the same principle. So my name is Laura, and I'm Italian, 100%. Calabrese in origin. I grew up in Rome in the 70s and the 80s. I'm a digital content creator, so I have a blog and a YouTube channel. And the name is Your Guardian Chef. I talk about the authentic Italian cuisine. And the name, I wanted to put the link between the religion, Catholic religion, and the cuisine, because they are very strongly linked.
Oh, yes.
And so my tagline is Your Guardian Chef, Your Angel in the Kitchen. And those are my wing.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
It's a present from the artist, which is a friend. So they are perfect. I found it perfectly. But I'm not actually a chef. I use the name chef because it sounds right. It wouldn't sound the same as, your guardian cook. It didn't sound. But I'm not a chef. Actually, I'm one of the Italian brain drain, a fuga di cervelli. I left Italy, but I have a master in civil engineer from the University of Rome La Sapienza, and I went to work in 1992. I went to work in the offshore platforms on the North Sea.
A whole different thing than, food.
Yeah, so I've been living abroad since 1992. I lived in UK, I lived in US, and so as an Italian living abroad, I realized how different it is, the Italian cuisine perceived. And I had the consequences, like you can't find the ingredient. It's difficult to find the right restaurants. That's why I thought that your ideas was superb. And so finally, I settled down in the French Riviera, which I have 40 minutes from the Italian frontiers. And in fact, tomorrow I'm going to Sanremo to do my food shopping. And I go regularly back to Italy. My family is there. And I have this tradition that has been in my family, and every time we pass through Rome, we stop in Battipaglia to buy the mozzarella from the producer. It's a very important tradition. Yeah.
So speaking about tradition, you talk about tradition a lot in your blog posts. And
I talk a lot about tradition because, as I said, as living abroad, I realize how different is the Italian cuisine perceived abroad. Now, I think now that the world is much more global with the internet and everything. A lot of Italians, they found themselves abroad, and then you realize how difficult it is to look back at your tradition, looking for the real Italian food. And of course, all the immigrants, they readapted their cuisine based on the ingredient that they found locally, or the taste, to have it more simple taste that can please more different people. But the big problem was the lack of ingredient. So, for example, it's one of the examples that I often take out. It's like the pizza with pineapple. Now, the pizza with pineapple was invented in Canada in 1944, I think. Now, clearly, that was not the real Italian pizza, and who knows what cheese they were using. Definitely not the mozzarella from Battipaglia. So, of course, they had to come up with an invention or something, and they put pineapple, and which is perfect. It's perfect, and it probably was the best ingredient to put on that pizza with that type of cheese. But of course, it's not Italian. Everything has been modified. And actually, who is, I think, as a personal experience, at fault, are the Italian brand going abroad. So I make you an example. My husband was working for Danone, the yogurt company. And we lived in Miami. And that was the headquarters for North and South America. A company that went to market abroad, they were told that they have to adapt the taste of their product. So the yogurt, the Danone yogurt in the States, we couldn't eat it as European. because there was much more sugar. The taste was not the same. But actually, what was closer was the yogurt that was coming from the South American. Since it was the headquarter, we had samples, so all the European would go and get the
Yeah,
yogurt
yeah, yeah, of course.
from the South
The
American.
region one.
And I don't know who, a marketing agency, the advertise. I don't know who is telling that to company. I think it's a pity because it is a product that has, a tradition. All the Americans actually they did like more the other
Course.
yogurt. But for example, another example of Italian is the balsamic vinegar. So they put a label, and you have two type of balsamic vinegar. You have the balsamic vinegar and the traditional balsamic vinegar. So that's the proper one.
Mhm.
But then there was the balsamic vinegar, which actually is vinegar with caramel. And that was commercialized. And now in the United States, you can't have a tomato mozzarella salad that they put balsamic vinegar on top, you know. and so I had experience there. I was invited up for dinner, and they were like trying to please me, and they put this, balsamic
Yeah.
vinegar on top of the mozzarella. It's like
So it's all about it's a marketing strategy to meet the customer's expectation, in this case in the US. So of course they sold more. But
so, and for the restaurant, it's the same thing.
yeah, so that's why basically your mission, what you're doing with your blog, is spreading the word about the real authentic tradition of Italian cuisine.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that people are so convinced of the wrong Italian cuisine that can make comment on my post and my video, saying things that I don't know where they're coming from. So I don't know who was that started spreading that the Italian gelato is not made with egg, but with cornstarch. And one of my best performing video on my channel is the gelato recipe. And all the comment that I get was like, no, this is not real gelato. It's like, look, maybe in your country they call gelato a recipe with
Yeah.
cornstarch, but this is, this is the gelato we used to make. My mom did cordon bleu course in Rome in the 70s. So it's like, it's the most traditional gelato you can have in Italy. And but you get comment like that. And that people don't realize. Or for example, one day I had a post about the lasagna. I
Mhm.
made the lasagna, and I got a comment was like, oh, you were doing the video perfectly, and then boom, you put bechamel.
What? It's what we love the most. Like, must be full of it.
No, they were convinced that the real lasagna is with ricotta.
That's
But
the light version for people who are dieting, probably, but not the real, you know, not ours.
there was another story that was fantastic. So I was in a Facebook group, and they are all, English-speaking writers
Mhm.
of cooking writers. So they're all sorts of. And I had a discussion once with a lady, an American author, that was trying to convince me that there was no butter in the south of Italy in the 70s. And I was like, no, I always had breakfast with bread and butter. And she was like, oh no, you need to read my book. And it was like, I don't need to read your book.
I lived it.
I was there. There is so much misinformation going around. People that are from Italy, they don't realize as much.
Yeah, even if I think, nowadays we have internet, we travel a lot, so maybe it should be easier now to have the right information, but still we are going over the same recipes, still trying to, get the correct one. Although there is a difference in, between regions in Italy, and you talk about it because there's regionality, and we have a lot of, heritage and culture from the past, which makes it
Yeah,
different.
yeah. There is a lot of differences between region and between also within the same region, also between town. Um, but there is always the same principle that follows the Italian tradition or authenticity. And it's very easy to spot. And that's why I try to educate my readers so then they can make whatever recipes. And if they want to follow the tradition, that's the way to go. So, for example, the simplicity of the plate, the seasonality of the ingredients, and the local produce. So, for Italy, we have the luck of having such a biodiversity country that you have a huge amount of different type of vegetables and fish and but the differences that you see also within the Italian regions is always linked, for example, to whatever grows locally, because that's what would be used to
Yeah.
do the recipes. And then there, of course, there is also the historic influence and the trade that has been historically but between the cities, between the countryside and the city, between the social status as well, the
Yes.
aristocracy and the poor, that they were taking the plates from the aristocracy, transform them with cheaper ingredients. And so, for example, you have a lot of recipes that where eggplants is substituted with meat, and then those plates were so delicious that actually the aristocracy brought it back and started serving it at their own banquets. But it's the principle that is the technique that is used that
Yeah.
really is in the core of the authenticity of the Italian cuisine.
There's someone who would say that there is no real original Italian cuisine because, as you said before, there has been historical influence from other mm, populations during time.
Yeah.
So someone commented once and said, well, there is actually no real Italian cuisine because Italian cuisine, it's a mixture of many things. What do you think about this?
Even if Italy was historically divided into several states, there was a lot of trades between the cities. And so, for example, in the sea, all the different ports, you will see a lot of similar recipes because those recipes they have traveled around during the trades between. And you also see it as actually you also see a lot of recipes that you can find also in the north of Europe. Like the baccalà, the stoccafisso, all those recipes, they've been traveled around. But for example, that historically pasta was produced in Sicily, but then it was exported through Genova, and then so there was always an exchange. And if a recipe was good, yes, they will have the different variation, but it would always, the ingredient was set like the socca farinata, the chickpeas
Mhm.
pancake.
Yeah.
You'll find it in Sicily, you find it in Liguria, you find it in Tuscany, you find it around Italy. So there is always that link. I mean, there are some similarity also with the French cuisine because there were a lot of exchange, especially between Piemonte and France, and also Naples. So I think the Mediterranean cuisine, they have a lot of similarity. Then when you go more from the north, you see that they've used more like butter ingredient or lard. But it's all while in the south you use more olive oil or local, but it's all linked to whatever is your local product.
All right. So, recently we have published a blog post about how social media, specifically maybe TikTok, is transforming the cuisine, the Italian cuisine, and I would say it's taking away the passion, the tradition, and it's making it also quick and fast and commercial. And you also talk about artificial intelligence and how it's changing the Italian cuisine.
As a blogger, I do social media as well as Google. It's been a lot of drive of producing information for either Google or social media. And a lot of people get attracted to the fact that like people want something fast, people want something, and so the information, the way it's given, is not accurate. And a lot of people get success for things that are, very different from what the reality is. So, for example, in the blogging world, of the Italian blogging world, there are a lot of people that write recipes that are not Italian at all, but there are a lot of them that actually do a very good job. And you have interview actually was Memoria d'Angelina. He's
Yes.
fantastic. He's great. But unfortunately, it's this rush to profit, to make money. It's like the restaurant. Because the Italian brand, the Italian cuisine brand sells so well that people are just motivated to just do the recipe just because they can get good money out of it. And then if it's not real, they don't even care. So you have the people that have passion and the people that don't have the passion. But I think it's a matter of choosing the audience, because you'll always have an audience that don't care and they rather eat. In America, for example, they go to Olive Garden, they like that Italian
Oh, yeah.
cuisine, fine, and that's them. But I think it's important that we, real Italian connoisseur, which is not necessarily just Italian, also the English writers or that actually know the Italian cuisine well, can find a way to bring our knowledge forward and distinguish it from the rest of the noises. Before Google was working, there was a lot of traffic was coming from Google, so that you do the search and then Google gives you the response, and then you go and look at your recipes. Now, unfortunately, I found out through my experience that the Google algorithm works on consensus. So they get their data from Chrome. So if you go look for Italian risotto and you see Bon Appetit that is giving risotto recipe, you said, okay, Bon Appetit, I'm going to trust that recipe, go in. That was an first result on Google, the risotto recipe from Bon Appetit, and it was done with sushi rice. With the AI, unfortunately, they'll be trained on that information that was up there. That was either right or not right, whatever that was. AI is going to think that was the consensus, therefore that's the right information. And so there is the risk that actually those fake, those sort of not authentic recipes, they will prevail. But we have an opportunity actually to overcome. And I think we really should try to get follow the moment, because things are changing and we don't know how they're going to change,
Yeah.
because it depends on how the people are going to choose to search for things and watch things. But AI, it doesn't have a lot of credibility already. So it would be for us to make sure that we differentiate ourselves with the real value that we bring.
Mhm.
But the other good thing is that for the moment, up to now, was Google that had the monopoly of the search. Well, now you have ChatGPT, you have Perplexity, and there's much more competition. So I'm hoping also that would force Google to look at more accurate information. But it's up to us really to make sure that we win the race, that we are up to date to what's happening, and we make sure that we position ourselves the right way.
So do you think that a project like ours could help in this sense to really turn restaurants, I mean, to, direct the people in the right direction?
I really hope so. Look, I'll tell you, I'm here in France. And so we're very close to the Italian frontiers. There's a big Italian influence. I mean, it was Italian, 100 years ago. And I went to a restaurant the other day and I had some pasta with truffle. And the pasta, was also an expensive restaurant. The pasta was cooked with no salt.
Oops.
So, I mean, you know, and when you go to a restaurant that you're paying, it's a waste of your money and it's a waste of calorie as well. So I really, really hope that you move forward and you really become an ambassador of the real Italian cuisine because it's badly needed abroad, really badly needed. My youngest son, went to in Manchester this year, and before he found an Italian restaurant that was very good, you know, he had to
Time
trial
has
and error.
passed. Yes, that's exactly what we want to avoid. Spending time and money, wasting basically time and money. So directing people to the right place because it's not about discriminating other cuisines. It's about saying if I want to eat Mexican, I'm going to Mexican. If I'm going to eat Italian, I'm going to an Italian restaurant. So differentiating abroad
Yeah.
and in Italy,
And in
especially.
Italy, yeah, that's what I heard from your interview, which interesting actually. I didn't think, but it's true. You go around Rome and you see all this tourist trap.
Mhm.
It's very challenging. I think, the world is big and misinformation is
Oh, yes.
unbelievable. So it,
Nowadays,
it is good to that we can work together and
yeah.
bring our voices
Yes,
together.
they're being ambassadors in some way of the Italian cuisine abroad. Laura, leave us with a tip for people who are searching for Italian restaurants abroad. Like, what's the first thing you have to do aside from going to real Italian restaurants and search there? But if you want to
Yeah.
distinguish, to see, okay, that's if you see that thing, that probably is an Italian restaurant.
Oh God, the menu is so blatant sometimes. The mistake they make on the menu, it's unbelievable. Um, I wish there was an app that would just translate. You could with the phone. You can actually maybe you can do that with the phone. You can look at the menu and flag all the things that are actually
The
are not
mistakes.
Italian. And when you read the menu, if we are Italian, sometimes you feel like crying. Sometimes you feel like laughing.
Yes, even the cost, sometimes it's a challenge because good products take more money.
Yeah, yeah, because of course, if you get commercial uh, pasta or you know, yeah, of course, you have a completely different flavor. The ingredients is so important for the Italian cuisine. It is
Mhm.
really makes a big difference.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why we also look for that. Like among our three specific criteria, we have Italian products, and we search for them, we look for them, and we verify that the restaurants that we have in our platform are actually using Italian ingredients. Otherwise, what's the point?
I studied in London in 1995. Yeah, and so we were within 2 years. It was a master, so within 2 years we had 10 Italians. And I remember every trimester we would take. We had a couple of tubes, a train, a bus to get to this Italian restaurant. I don't even remember where it was, where there was the real Italian pizza. But the length that we would go to, it's unbelievable.
What
Uh,
will we do for food?
yeah.
Many restaurants, like maybe they contact us, but they are located in a not touristic area, let's say, and they are like, they will never come to us. But actually, what you just said, it's saying the opposite. Because for quality things, we would go everywhere. I mean, food
Yeah.
in our blood, it's part of us.
But my son, my husband was Irish. He passed away. But so my son are Italian Irish. Oh, they'll go long way to look for the proper Italian food, even if they are, second generation. Once you get to know it, you can.
Because you taste it, and then you
You're
it's
hooked.
really hard to go back. Yes. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time. And we invite everyone to read your blog. So tell us again.
Yeah, my blog is yourguardianchef.com. And
Mhm.
I have a YouTube channel, and Instagram account,
Mhm.
and Pinterest also.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
so we invite
And
everyone
all
to take a look at
Yeah,
your
most of my
recipe.
recipes have step-by-step video. And
Yeah.
also the voiceover on my videos is not me. It's a friend which is an actress from England, but the mother was Italian and her Italian pronunciation is
Perfect.
spotless.
It's a good thing to, take from your family because, especially thinking about that in Italy, we don't really speak English super well. So that may be useful. Thank you again. And we're looking forward for your next videos, your next blog posts. And I wish you a very great day. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Martina. Good luck with everything.